I'm Chris with Operation Safe Escape. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how you can help. We exist simply to help all survivors of domestic violence, stalking, harassment, and other forms of abuse escape and stay safe after they do. We say all very deliberately. We don't discriminate based on any characteristic, not age, race, gender or gender expression, sexual orientation, national origin, or any other characteristic. We'll keep working until all are safe. Operation Safe Escape was founded in 2016 and currently includes 118 volunteers, both active and reserve. This means we have a core cadre of volunteers that work the majority of cases, but also a surge capability that can deal with uncommon and highly specialized scenarios. This means we've never had to turn away a partner or a client in need due to lack of resources. As an organization, we're trauma-informed, meaning we're trained to work with survivors of trauma in a way that is sensitive to their experiences, but still effective at providing care. We're one of the original founding members of the Coalition Against Stalkerware and can be found online at safeescape.org or our less obvious security resource site, goaskrose.com, as well as social media. A few achievements that we're particularly proud of include our work with industry to provide tools to partners and allies, such as our previous live security conferences or our upcoming virtual conference for social workers, public services, and shelter and safe house staff members. We were recognized by the Harvard Kennedy Belfer Center for Technology and Public Service Project for our Safe House and Shelter Training Program, and we're a founding member of the Coalition Against Stalkerware, along with the EFF, leading security companies, TOR, the National Network to End Domestic Violence, and more. But this is what really drives us. On the left is an actual email that we received from someone who's allowed us to share it. I'd like to read it because every single time it moves me. It says, "Hi, you might not remember me, but I suppose it doesn't matter since I'm not using my real name. And that's because you taught me well. And that's how you saved my life and my child's life. You know what I did this Christmas? Whatever I wanted. I woke up when my child did. We opened presents before breakfast. Do you have any idea how long it's been since I was allowed to do any of that? No one yelled. No one hit. No one had to hide bruises when someone came over. It was the best Christmas of our life because we're safe. We're safe because you didn't give up on me. You helped me figure out what I needed to do and how to do it, and I'm not afraid anymore. Merry Christmas from two grateful people. God bless you for what you do." The phrase, "I'm not afraid anymore," means so much. This is one of more than 3,000 successful escapes we've had the privilege of participating in. In fact, each one of these icons represents an actual person, a real life, someone that matters. We're unique as an organization, the only one that provides full scope and no-cost security resources to survivors of domestic violence, partners, and our allies. We don't focus on any one security discipline because we found that it's critical that multiple security disciplines work seamlessly to keep clients safe. For example, an average case might require a cybersecurity component to help recover and protect compromised accounts or devices, OSINT and privacy specialists to determine how an abuser had previously been able to track the client down after they've moved before we were involved. A physical security specialist to help the client protect their home so they are safe and so that they feel safe. And forensic services to confirm compromise for law enforcement. We speak both security and advocacy, which makes us uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between advocacy and security community organizations and bring them together in ways that weren't possible before. By maintaining relationships and partnerships, we can quickly provide resources while promoting improvements to current tools and processes. We're primarily based in the US and operate in all 50 states, but we also provide support wherever required. We focus on 3 pillars of support. The first pillar includes the survivors of domestic violence, sometimes referred to as victims of domestic violence, but we highlight the fact that they may be victims of a crime, but they're survivors at their core, and also their support system who comes to us through referrals or direct contact. We work with them to plan and to effect their escape, reduce their digital footprint and stay hidden if necessary, and stay safe across all security domains. The second pillar includes our partners and allies, primarily by improving shelter and safe house security, advising on security and safety matters, and helping with personnel security measures to make sure that the helpers are kept safe. The third pillar focuses on those that can often indirectly help survivors, such as public safety, legislators, and the security community. In order to understand Operation Safe Escape, it's important to first understand the scope of the problem that we're trying to solve. That's not to say that we can solve all these problems on our own, which is why our partnerships are so important to us. On average, 20 people every minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States alone, which equates to more than 10 million men and women every year. It's a staggeringly large number that can be difficult to imagine. One way to visualize that number is it's the equivalent of about 10 football stadiums worth of people every single month, all year round. Statistically, that number probably includes someone you know, directly or indirectly. Someone in your workforce, at your school or your children's school, in your community, your customers. If you interact or support any sizable population, you're dealing with survivors of abuse. While domestic violence crosses all demographics, it's often shocking to learn that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have experienced severe intimate partner violence, equating to about 20% of the population. It's important to note that incidents for men are widely regarded to be significantly underreported, as also statistics across all demographics. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence every year, with about 90% being direct eyewitnesses to the violence in the home. Studies show that this is linked to attachment issues and eating problems in infants, and aggressiveness, substance abuse, truancy, health issues, early sexual activity, and other negative impacts in older children. Research has even found physical differences in the brains of children that are exposed to abuse at home, particularly while young, and noted that these children display signs of PTSD comparable to soldiers returning from combat. There's also an economic cost to abuse. Survivors lose about 8 million days of paid work every year as a direct result of the abuse, which costs the economy $8.3 billion a year. Additionally, over half of all survivors have lost 1 or more jobs as a direct result of violence at home. Of course, the abuse doesn't always stay at home. According to the FBI, more than 2/3 of mass shootings are linked to domestic violence, in which at least one of the victims is known to the perpetrator. These types of shootings are associated with higher fatality rates than any other motive. So we can look at the problem from multiple perspectives, perhaps as an individual who just wants them and their loved ones to be safe. As a community, we realize that everyone deserves to be safe and everyone should be free to contribute equally. From an economic perspective, we recognize that we're stronger when everyone can contribute to their greatest ability. Often overlooked is that domestic violence is also a national security threat, particularly given the rise of monitoring tools like stalkerware. The abusers, of course, are the bad guys. We can agree on that. And they're personally invested in causing harm to a specific individual, and sometimes those that might be helping them. They're motivated and they're persistent, in some cases willing to spend large sums of money and time to achieve their goals and undeterred by the threat of legal repercussions. That's an elevated threat, and one that we need to overcome 100% of the time. Many people are, quite frankly, fortunate. They can enjoy certain security and privacy protections because they're in a position where they can keep a secret from someone, even if they know they're keeping it. In other words, someone can see they have a password-protected account, but they can't be forced to disclose it. They're protected by the Constitution, encryption technologies, passwords, physical locks, guards, privacy laws, biometrics, and more. But sometimes others aren't quite so fortunate. If they're in a situation where privacy isn't allowed, they're often protected only by the willingness of the abuser to look closely at their possessions or their devices, how well they're able to conceal their private information, and how reliable those that they can trust might be. Here's an example of how security controls are often created by those that don't fully understand the threat model that impacts a significant portion of their customer base. Password reset questions. As far back as 1882, when Mother's Maiden Name was first used as a security question for telegram banking, those identity confirmation questions have always assumed an external threat that wouldn't have access to the answers. But they're mostly questions that one's spouse or intimate partner would know, which isn't always safe. Shown here on this list are the most common password reset questions used for online accounts. Shown here also is my actual answers. I can share them because I don't use my actual information for security questions. I use fake information because I know that it's not hard to get this information through social engineering, OSINT, or simply by knowing me. This is a common trick used by security professionals to increase their own security, but it's often not communicated by those that need it the most. Unfortunately, without help, and in many cases, the abusers often have the advantage initially. They might seek or already have allies by manipulating or deceiving family members or friends, or those that are already willing to help for one reason or another. There are online groups where abusers and stalkers can openly share information and tips, or teach one another new techniques for monitoring their victim. Sometimes police are unknowingly weaponized to harass or embarrass the survivor, such as by submitting false criminal complaints. Non-consensual pornography, sometimes called revenge porn, might be distributed through various sites in order to socialize the harassment. Remember that the survivors have to be careful in everything they do, while the abusers often need to be lucky once in order to ruin the escape plans if there's not sufficient security put in place. This is, of course, highly simplified, but the solution involves three major activities. First, you bring together subject matter experts across all security disciplines. You give the power back to the survivor and ensure they have a team to counter any threat. And you work with partners and allies to help survivors stay safe after they escape. It's a concept that's proven and one that works. This is based on three facts. Good guys can match and beat the bad guys. Just like in a corporate environment, you want skilled defenders that can protect the facilities, the people in the network from the attackers. We believe that the helpers with multiple and complementary subject matter expertise are more effective than an abuser with a limited skill set, even when they have help. So we bring helpers with practical skills in order to counter that threat. Of course, we have more than 6 projects currently in the works, but I'd like to share a few that are particularly exciting. We're working on a shelter and safe house security control catalog similar to NIST 800-53 or the JSIG. It's a way for partner organizations to build up and audit their security programs. We're also working on a SOC to provide technical and security assistance to shelters, safe houses, and other allies to allow them to focus on their core services without having to pay for technical or security assistance. We're developing new secure communications tools to allow secret and out-of-band communications and allow the client to reestablish their support systems or coordinate for services. We're in the planning stages of our next security conferences, this one virtually, and new education awareness tools and content. We'll also be focusing on improving the volunteer experience with more training, tools, and internal recognition. We're also working on 4 major initiatives over the next 5 years, each fully staffed and resourced and currently underway. The first is the Domestic Violence Information Sharing and Analysis Center, or DVISAC. If you're not familiar, an ISAC is a sort of community that allows organizations to work together towards their common cause. The concept first appeared in the financial sector when banks could get hacked but wouldn't want to give alerts or indicators of compromise to their competitors for fear of losing public trust or competitive advantage. Eventually, they realized that it's everyone's best interests that they can quickly share information to help everyone stay safe. Today, there are multiple ISACs covering the restaurant hospitality sector, aviation, public utilities, and more. We're working on a similar approach to provide information and resources to public safety, partners, allies, and advocates. We also want to grow the number of partners we support, starting with the domestic violence coalitions for each state and other shelters and safe house networks. We're building out our infrastructure, allowing us to provide certain managed services to our partners, allowing them to focus on their core business of helping people recover from abuse. Rather than hire or outsource technical and security services, we can help manage their networks, build secure websites, conduct physical security assessments, develop policies, and more. And finally, we want to focus on education, awareness, and outreach. There's a significant knowledge gap for certain populations, and our goal is to provide no-cost training tailored to that unique task. This slide shows our most significant annual expenses. What would keep the lights on? Not capture things like postage, some software licenses, hardware devices, and some other things. I'd like to highlight just a few items here. We use teams and teamwork for inter-team collaboration, project management, and client support. This allows us to quickly spin up new private workspaces for the client and their modular team, with other security benefits that protect the privacy and security of both the client and the team. We perform comprehensive background checks on all volunteers to ensure that our clients and existing volunteers are safe. Articulate 360 is an e-learning development tool that's allowed us to create custom content that supports the mission and that of our partners. Overall, we need to raise nearly $11,000 a year to continue operating at this fundamental level. But we're working towards a goal, one that would allow us to help even more people and enable even more partnerships. And that takes funding. To do this, we need to acquire additional licenses, essentially using our buying power to provide resources to individuals and organizations that can't afford it on an individual basis, and who lack the training to use the tools on their own. This will also support the goals of offloading some of the technical and security burden for our partners so they can focus on providing services directly to survivors. We also plan to field a collection of kiosks that allow people to check if their phone is being tracked by an abusive partner without revealing the fact that they've discovered it. And that's critical because that will help to avoid escalating the abuse. One thing that we found is that sometimes shelters and safe houses have to make unfair decisions between security upgrades to improve safety and security, such as enhanced lighting systems, intrusion detection, CP technologies, and more. When we're fully funded, we can also more quickly respond to critical situations and provide a wider range of forensic services to help clients obtain law enforcement support they often can't receive without validation. This is what we're currently able to do and what we want to continue to be able to do better. With support, we can keep providing rapid and tailored support that accounts for the unique aspects of each individual case. Provide resources for secure and emergency communications. Bring together the wide range of helpers, including OSE personnel, public safety, social workers, shelter and safe house staff, and more, into one collaborative space that reduces latency of care and streamlines solutions. We can use industry standard tools to determine client exposure and security vulnerabilities and enable information sharing between organizations and partners, rapidly sharing information and resources they need in the field. We can help standardize security approaches and controls among different entities and provide new security and safety education and training resources that are directly relevant to our client base. We can keep making a difference. Working together, we can solve these serious problems. Shelters and safe houses are staffed by incredible people that are experts in their field. However, they're often not provided with security and safety resources and expertise that they need in order to best protect employees, assets, and residents. They also have finite funding, which means that sometimes they have to choose between security or technical expenses and services for residents, which is an unfair situation for the staff and the recipients of those services. One of the first things an abuser will try to do is isolate their victim by restricting contact with the actual or potential support system. Sometimes this is done by taking away or monitoring devices, surveillance, or other measures. This allows the abusers to build their own network of allies, as terrible as it is that anyone would help abuse someone, while restricting the same ability in the survivor of abuse. When someone is able to talk to their loved ones again, they can start to feel hope. Unfortunately, technology often favors the adversary, especially when they control the devices and the finances. For example, it's not uncommon for an abuser to use parental controls to monitor or turn off a person's phone as a form of punishment for some imagined offense. There's a significant collaboration and communication gap that defenders and allies must be able to overcome in order to work together. And most current security training assumes an opportunistic adversary, such as a burglar, who can be deterred by lighting or alarm systems. Rarely does this training account for the unique threat model that a dedicated and persistent threat like an abuser or a stalker represents. This shows our quantifiable goals for 2022. Of course, we expect to exceed them, but our goal is to provide services to 350 new clients, provide 55 training and education opportunities, establish new partnerships with 50 shelters and safe houses, provision 100 users for secure communications and break through the isolation they've endured, deploy 25 anti-stalkerware kiosks, welcome 50 DV-ISAC members, and provide services to at least 25 partner organizations through the TOC and the SOC. We want to do all of this at no cost and to continue providing these services without charging a dime for clients, partners, or allies. This is admittedly ambitious, but as we saw earlier, every moment and every person counts. We need funding to continue our critical work. Just $11,000 a year allows us to continue providing key services to our partners and clients, and every dollar beyond that goes directly towards advancing our mission goals and helping even more people. We need to build bridges to new partnerships in industry, the security community, and advocacy organizations to improve upon our and current services. And we need friends like you that can help us better help others. Together, we can really make a difference in the lives of real people. Thank you for your time, and I hope to be able to work with you.